Hello, I'm Henry Keane. This is News Pulse, as usual, at UATV. Welcome to the show. Today in the episode, Kremlin acknowledges Russian military objects are not safe anymore because of Ukrainian deep strikes. More than 200 Ukrainian drone experts are working in the Middle East right now. It's a part of a future deal with the United States. Ukraine supports the EU proposal to restore the Druzhba oil pipeline. Would it help, actually, to unblock Hungarian veto on EU loan for Ukraine? It is certainly an achievement when your enemy is acknowledging your gains.
Russian Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu stated on March 17th that Ukrainian airstrikes, presumably referring to both drone and missile strikes against infrastructure across all Russian federal subjects, increased almost fourfold in 2025 to 23,000, up from 6,200 in 2024. Shoigu further stated that Ukrainian forces have gained the ability to conduct airstrikes against targets in the Ural region and that the region is now in the immediate threat zone. Shoigu stated that unspecified states are developing weapons and methods at such a rate that not one region of Russia can feel safe. Institute for the Study of War.
Shoigu also linked the growing threats to the international situation. He noted that events in the Middle East could increase the risks of attacks on Russian critical infrastructure, including due to the threat of terrorist attacks, what he said. Well, I wonder if Shoigu means those 4 years of terror that Russia brought onto Ukraine. An aircraft repair plant in Russia targeted successfully a facility used to service military transport aircraft, in particular the IL-76 and L-410. Next to the facility that was hit, stand for testing aircraft engines was located, which proves the specialization of the facility, repair and further testing of aircraft engines. The media also spotted the presence of two A-50 anti-aircraft missile aircrafts at this very airfield. However, these aircrafts actually have been already located there since at least June 2023 and cannot be linked to this specific attack directly. Ukraine this weekend launched one of its largest waves of drones attacks on Moscow since the start of the war, with city authorities saying that air defense systems destroyed at least 150 drones, banned for the capital. Well, some might say, hey, you Ukrainians are targeting cities, just as Russians do, right? Well, not, and here is why. First, you need to remember, Ukraine did not start this war. We are defending ourselves from a bigger, aggressive imperial enemy wanting to destroy all we want to save, freedom in our own way of life. So we are forced to be innovative to survive under the pressure of that large, aggressive, brutal Russian force. And we also are forced to destruct Russian air defense capabilities, so to be able to then hit military targets on the front line. Well, in easy terms, if Russia wants us to stop doing all that, hitting their military facilities in the Urals or keeping their airports closed in Moscow, Ukraine can do that. But Putin has to do just one thing: to get his second-in-the-world army back to his second-world country of Russia and keep it at bay there. Then peace comes. But Russia, being Russia, does exactly the opposite. Russia has expanded intelligence sharing and military cooperation with Iran to keep it in the fight against the US and Israel operation. The Wall Street Journal anonymous sources, including a senior official from a European intelligence service, told the Wall Street Journal that Moscow has increased intelligence exchanges and other forms of military cooperation with Tehran to support Iran in its confrontation with the United States and Israel. This includes upgrades to Shahed drones developed by Russia during the years of using them against Ukraine, improving their control and targeting capabilities. Russia is also said to be providing advice on how many drones to launch in a single wave and at what altitudes. The Wall Street Journal also learned that Moscow has been providing Iran with data on the locations of US facilities in the Middle East and those of Washington's close allies in the region. Well, that is how much Russia wants a war, any war, to end. As simple as that. President Zelensky visited London, opening a new chapter of Ukraine-Great Britain relationships, new defense deal, audience with King Charles in Buckingham Palace, and incredible support from UK Parliament.
I'm with you. Slava Ukraine. Mr. President, the floor is yours.
$201 Ukrainian military experts have already been deployed to countries in the Middle East to help counter drone attacks. Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed this during his address to British Parliament. He also revealed that Ukrainian teams are already in the Emirates, Qatar and Saudi Arabia and on their way to Kuwait. Moreover, Ukraine is working with several other countries. Agreements are already on the table and just ready to be signed.
We do not want this terror of the Iranian regime against its neighbors to succeed. And I sent these military experts at the request of our partners, including the United States. In fact, this is a part of drone deal we proposed to the United States, which we worked on together and which is still on the table.
Zelensky believes that due to the war in the Middle East, a shortage of missiles for Patriot air defense systems is inevitable, posing a significant challenge for Ukraine. And that's why Ukraine and Great Britain have formed a strategic defense alliance. Under the new agreement signed by Volodymyr Zelensky and Keir Starmer in London, the United Kingdom will provide Ukraine with £3 billion annually until 2031. Ukraine will contribute its unique combat experience, technologies and solutions that have already proven effective on the battlefield, particularly in the field of unmanned systems. Simultaneously, the United Kingdom will invest in these technologies, help scale production and continue to strengthen Ukraine's long-range capabilities through increased supplies. Britain Prime Minister has confirmed focus is still on Ukraine.
I think today, obviously, we've got a lot to discuss. I think it's really important that we're clear that the focus must remain on Ukraine. There is obviously a conflict in Iran going on in the Middle East, but we can't lose focus on what's going on in Ukraine and the need for our support there. And secondly, it's really important that we're clear and consistent that Putin can't be the one who benefits from the conflict in Iran, whether that's oil prices or the dropping of sanctions.
And that is not all. Keir Starmer, Zelensky and Rutte met with British soldiers in London. They are preparing to use Ukrainian-made Nemesis heavy drones. These have already been credited with the destruction of 158 Russian tanks in Ukraine. Then Zelensky and NATO chief discussed expanding US arms purchases for Ukraine, and President of Ukraine thanks Rutte for the Pearl initiative working properly, which allows us to purchase missiles for the Patriot systems from the United States, and added NATO will work to bring new countries into this initiative and increase contributions. European Union expects that a 90 billion loan to Kiev will be provided in the nearest future. The loan, which the EU, including Hungary, actually agreed in December, but it is currently being blocked by Budapest. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban is demanding the immediate resumption of oil supplies via the Druzhba pipeline. Kyiv, however, states the obvious: repairing the pipeline, hit by Russia, by the way, will take 1.5 months at least. Orban is using anti-Ukrainian rhetoric instead in his election campaign, which he is, by the way, currently losing. But meanwhile, the European Commission hopes that a decisive step towards unblocking the loan could be Ukraine's agreement to accept EU assistance in restoring the Druzhba pipeline faster. And Kyiv has agreed to the idea. More in the following story for you.
The president of Ukraine rejected accusations of allegedly deliberately blocking the transit of Russian oil via the Druzhba pipeline. Kyiv is making every possible effort to repair the infrastructure damaged as a result of a Russian attack, emphasized Volodymyr Zelensky.
Ukraine is a reliable energy partner for the European Union and honors fully its commitments vis-à-vis the European Union. Despite daily threats of Russia's ongoing missile and drone attacks, we are undertaking all possible efforts to repair the damage and restore operations, considering the impact on the pipeline itself, the surrounding infrastructure and environment as well. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, in a letter to the President of the European Commission and the President of the European Council.
Can resume operations in approximately 1.5 months. This, according to Volodymyr Zelensky, will ensure full restoration of supplies, provided, of course, that Russia stops its attacks. The aggressor country struck the Druzhba pipeline on January 27th. Information on the consequences of the attack was jointly provided by Naftogaz of Ukraine and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to diplomats from 31 states. Restoring such infrastructure is a complex technological process, explained Serhiy Koretsky, chairman of the board of Naftogaz. It requires time, specialized equipment, and work under conditions of constant threats of repeated Russian strikes. But in Hungary, they have no intention of listening to such arguments. Neither Prime Minister Viktor Orban nor Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó has once mentioned that Russia is to blame for the accident. In Budapest, they stated they will continue blocking the 20th sanctions package against Moscow and aid to Ukraine, as they consider the halt of supplies a political decision by Kyiv.
As long as the Ukrainians are messing with us, as long as they're not restarting oil deliveries for political reasons, and as long as they're trying to cause an oil supply crisis in Hungary, then it's simply out of the question. We won't be voting for the €90 billion war loan, nor any other financial support for Ukraine, nor for the 20th sanctions package. And as for EU membership, they can just forget about it. So that's where we stand.
According to experts, the situation around the Druzhba pipeline has exacerbated the political conflict within the European Union. Hungary consistently opposes sanctions against Russia. Viktor Orban does not hide his sympathy for Putin, and his anti-European and anti-Ukrainian rhetoric has only intensified ahead of the parliamentary elections.
The European Union has levers of influence over countries that oppose the common will, so to speak. And these mechanisms are primarily financial. Roughly speaking, these countries are cut off from additional budget inflows, investments, expenditures. On April 12th, elections will take place in Hungary, as a result of which Viktor Orban may lose power. And that is why right now, in fact, Brussels is waiting for April 12th to then understand which strategy to choose.
Brussels offered Kyiv technical and financial assistance in restoring the Druzhba pipeline, and Ukraine accepted this proposal, reported the head of the European Commission.
The EU has offered Ukraine technical support and funding. The Ukrainians have welcomed and accepted this offer. European experts are available immediately. Our priority is to ensure energy security for all European citizens. In this sense, we will continue to work with the concerned parties on alternative routes for the transit of non-Russian crude oil to the countries of Central and Eastern Europe. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, on X.
After Ukraine agreed to accept assistance from the European Union for restoring the Druzhba pipeline, the issue of providing Ukraine with a €90 billion loan may be unblocked in the near future, even before the European Council meeting on March 19th, stated European Commission spokesperson Paula Pinho, reported by Maria Jeluchenko, UATV News.
Well, it seems to be it for today. I'm Henry Keane. Thank you so very much for your time and for watching this segment. Please leave a comment and a like and subscribe to our channel. So stay tuned to what tomorrow holds for all of us. UATV will be there to present it to you in Ukrainian perspective as usual. While stay safe and tune for more UATV. See you tomorrow.